Well, hello, writers. Welcome to episode number 492 of Ink in Your Veins. So happy that you are here with me today as I'm talking to Isa Arsén, who is a freaking delight. I loved her book. This is fantastic. We're going to be talking about being fluent in the language of fiction. Also, we're going to talk about feminist Cinderella fanfic, and we're going to talk a little bit about the importance of enjoying other people's work. It's a fabulous conversation. Please stick around for it. What's going on around here? Well, I am in the Philippines. Hopefully, all goes well. I am recording this from my office moments before I should probably run out and leave the house to go to the Philippines. So at this moment, if all goes well, I'm on a tropical island, Boracay. I don't know how to say it. Is it Boracay? Is it Boracay? Like it would be in New Zealand? I don't know. I'm going to find out. I'm going to be staying at a nice little hotel on this little island and doing some work, as in reading a lot of books and thinking a lot and journaling and probably definitely writing because I've been enjoying writing so much lately on this novel that I'm writing out of order and in a very chaotic manner. So that is going to be happening right now while you are listening. Um, yes, I don't want to talk too much about anything else because I need to finish packing. So let me tell you about Isa's bio, and we'll jump right into it. Isa Arsén is a certified bleeding heart and audio engineer based in South Texas, where she lives with her spouse and a comically small dog. The Unbecoming of Margaret Wolf is her most recent novel, and you can find her at inarsen.com. And here we go. Please enjoy. I know you will. And I'll see you when I'm back in New Zealand. Well, I am so pleased to have you on the show. Will you please share your name and pronouns with us?
Yes, my name is Isa Arsén and my pronouns are she, they.
It is so nice to have you. I loved your book. I kind of dove into it and stayed there. I found it
Oh,
incredibly immersive. I don't know if anybody else has said that, but I was just in that place and time. And thank you so much for writing it. And now I'm looking forward to reading your first book. But what I would love to talk to you about today is your writing process. So that was your second book, right?
correct. Yes, this is my sophomore book.
Perfect. How has this is not on the list of questions, but how has the sophomore book felt to you? Because I know that
It,
it was very hard for me, I remember.
yeah, I avoided a slump emotionally, which is great. I'm very proud of the book. I'm very happy with where it landed. I am just so pleased with what it finally ended up saying, and the audience that started finding it has been really wonderful. I think it's really catching in a way that the first one just didn't, because a debut is hard. It's weird. You're sort of emerging out of nowhere, and then at least you
Mhm.
kind of have some ground to stand on. For me, the process was easier in the way that I like understood more about the brass tacks of the publishing side of things. Like I
Oh, yeah.
knew, yeah, like I knew what to expect when I was reading my contract. I knew what to ask my agent. I knew like how to sort of go through the process of selling the book better and kind of approaching it from there first. And then because of that, I feel like I had a better idea of what I wanted this one to do creatively. So it was smooth. I can't say easy because it's never easy, but it was smooth. I'm very lucky that I got to, yeah, it was the same team too. It was my same editor, same
Ah,
marketing and publicity. It was
fabulous.
another Putnam. Great. I love them. I'm really
Yeah.
pleased with them. I hope that I just get to keep going and going with them for as long as they'll have me. So it's
Awesome.
it's been great fun.
I've been with a lot of publishers and I've never been with Putnam, but I keep hearing good things. So maybe someday. So
Wonderful.
are you well into your third book? What are you doing
I
now?
am in, oh gosh, the third book has sort of been a bunch of, as any book is, I think it's been a bunch of different things at once, and I've tried to write it twice now, and now I'm on the third time, and third time is the charm. It's weird, and like I'm trying not to look too much at the symbolism of that because I was raised Catholic. The book is very Catholic. It's weird. A lot of stuff is coming together at once. It's making the process very fun and sort of, nice to enjoy in the moment of it. But it's a Western. It's about a young
Ooh,
girl sort of
awesome.
trying to, yeah, I was sitting down talking about, kind of the genesis of it. I had a very unformed manuscript, and my agent and I had lunch and picked it apart one afternoon. And I asked him, I was like, what are the tropes that you like that you feel like you don't see done enough or done in interesting ways. And I love the man with no name trope. The Laramie Westerns are some of my favorites of the whole canon ever of anything, particularly cinema, particularly Western. So the idea of a girl with no name, I think, is really fun. So there's a thread there that I've been following, and it's been fun to sort of see who she is as we
Oh, that
go.
is so cool. And I love how you just light up when you talk about it. It's still so
It's hard to like
sparkly.
I don't know how to talk about it yet because
Yeah.
I'm always like it's about this and that and then this and then this character comes in and oh there's a B plot over there and it's like no it's not done yet like I can't it's an unraveled sweater I can't let it get too far.
As a person who like I will buy a sweater at the thrift store and unravel it and then reknit it into something else,
Ooh, awesome.
that is exactly what it feels like. So talk to us a little bit about this process that you do or that you're doing with this book, because all books are different. But
Mhm.
so you wrote it once, you wrote it a second time, now you're writing it a third time. What, so the first time was it kind of like a zero draft, just really
The
tell
zero
us about
draft
those
to
different drafts.
me, yeah, I things kind of simmer for a long time. I joke. I've only met one other writer who calls it a like a stove metaphor. But the moment I've met someone who said it here in San Antonio, and I was like, yes, oh my God, you're the only other one. Um, but I have to have a couple different projects alive somehow, or else I need to be focusing on multiple things. So I have to have one that's like on the rails, very sure of itself, actively pitching that or moving in a direction where I can be. Something that I've like written once very loosely is, that's maybe the zero draft where there's still
Hmm.
some notes in there. There's still some like dot dot dot, write this later, they get from point A to point B,
Hmm.
boop. And then maybe one or two ideas that I'm still kind of compiling the stuff for. I keep documents that I call my scrapbooks, and those all have like I'll paste pictures in it. I'll put little snippets if I think of like dialogue or something or a movie that I watched that, a quote or I very much it's kind of a digital keeping place of all this stuff that I can reference until I have a document where I can actually start putting it into shape. So I let it be loose for a while until it
To
comes together.
to go into the nitty gritty, what where are you keeping this? What app or form do you
Oh, I
keep
just
those notebooks?
honestly, it's all scattered. My process is so all over the place, but I'm paranoid about losing work. So I do a lot
As you should
of
be. Yes.
cloud-based. Yeah,
Good.
yeah. I've lost too many things to the failed drive before, and
Hmm.
I go the extra mile for like, a good chunky amount of cloud space that is like very nicely protected for my own peace of mind.
Hmm.
I'm neurotic about all that safety stuff. So something I just like to be able to access it from anywhere. That's the thing. I need to be able to feel like I can be just as creative here at my desk in my space as I am, you know, sitting on a bench somewhere in the middle of the day and like, oh my God, bolt from the blue, blah, blah, blah. I have to
Hmm.
be able to put it somewhere where I feel like it's safe. It's not gonna just like up and puff and disappear. I'm gonna forget it and like that's the one that got away. Um, and I also have like physical solutions. I have one of those tablets that is the writing one that saves digitally. It doesn't read my handwriting. My handwriting is
Is
terrible.
it
It
the
cannot.
Remarkable? Is it one of
Yes,
those?
exactly. Yeah,
I love
mine.
it.
I love mine. I cannot use the handwriting to text thing. It's
But
not
that's okay
it's not
because
good.
have you had it where like I'll be like thinking about what I wrote in the Remarkable and I want to go get it, but I'm actually at the desk, so I don't want to. So I'll just open the app on my computer and then I'm reading
Yes,
my own
that's
handwriting.
exactly
I'm like,
why.
yeah, that's the
Yes.
ideas that I had. Okay, now I can go. Yes,
Yeah,
fabulous.
I have like my cycle of creativity just keeps rolling. I can keep the momentum up. That to me is the most important thing is just being able to feel like I can access it at any time, at any place. Because if I slow down or stop or feel like I have to like put the cork in it for any reason, it is really hard for me to get it back out again. It takes a few days and it's really like I get really moody and it's not fun to be around me during that. Like that's a me thing. I'm working on it.
Okay, well, tell me more about that. So, when you are actively not putting the cork in it, when you are actively showing up for the work, what does that
Mhm.
look like in your day to day, week to week? What do you have any?
I'm so much more fun when I'm like in it. I like I'm in harmony, synchrony, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
like with my sense of self. I feel like I'm getting things done. I feel like I have a purpose. I feel like I'm like, I am understanding myself. I'm able to communicate clearly. Like fiction to me, I said to a friend once that I feel like fiction is the only fluent language that I have. Like I speak English, I can understand Spanish, I can suffer through Italian, and that's about it. And then fiction is, but like over all of that is this idea of, drawing parallels and making metaphors and sort of looking back at what has already happened to make something new. That is something that I think is very special and hard to define. And like, that's why it's so much fun to chase it because there's always like, you can't do it the same way twice because if you do, it's a bad book, in my opinion. Sorry.
Mhm.
Like it's if you're trying to grow and you just do the same thing over again, why are you doing that? Like you can just try something different. It's fun, I promise. Like if
Yes.
go.
Yes, and in my experience, I've also been lazy, and I'm like, I'm going to do it exactly the same I did it last time because it worked well last time, and it never ever works anyway.
It
I'm
never
just going to
works.
beat my
I
head
the
against a rock
reason
for a while, and then
Yes.
I'll do something new.
The reason I have
Yeah.
to have write this Western 6.5 billion times is because I was like, okay, well, that was fun. Book two, spicy, like that was a very different approach. Let me see if I can try again what I did with number one, remanufacture that like, magic of finishing the first one. Um, and it didn't work. It fell apart. And then I was like, okay, great. I'll just try what I did with Margaret again. And that absolutely did not work. And then I was like, well, all right, back to the drawing board. I'm going to watch a bunch of movies and see what happens.
Yeah.
So that's been fun. I routinely forget that taking in other people's art is the most important thing for me. Like I get so caught up in like, oh, I have to reread my own work. Oh, I have to go study. I have to go take a class. Like, yes, go study, go take a class. I
Hmm.
think it's really important for us to keep being students. But like, just go enjoy other people's stuff and it will sit in your head and it will become something that sticks with you and you'll get fixated on something, you'll get obsessed with something, it'll make you want to create something. And like that's when you should open the gates a little bit wider and be like, hi, I'm ready, come here.
It brings me back to your stovetop metaphor that when you were inputting things, then you do
Yeah.
have the ingredients to put in those pots that are at different
Exactly. Yeah,
different
if
places
you're
on the
just like,
boil.
I'm boiling water and there's nothing to put in it, like,
Right.
sorry, oops, I'll come back
You've got
later.
you've
Like,
got one rapid boil of water in the front. You got like a nice simmer in the back, but there's
yeah, and you're like, where's the
nothing to
pasta?
eat.
No, 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 I'm not ready.
Okay, now the metaphor is getting even better. All right, what is the most exciting thing that you've ever realized about your writing process?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Exciting thing. I think that the fluency thing was a big one because that has helped me have a much better relationship with my creativity overall. If I sort of take it as something that I use as a means to communicate rather than like something that I have or some talent that is just sort of bestowed, like that doesn't help anybody. But I think it's something I think the inherency of it is the most surprising thing, where it is
Mhm.
so important. Like I don't feel right unless I am making something that I'm excited to be looking at. Like there's my idea of a really bad day is just like opening up the documents and scrolling through and being like, what do I want to work on? Like I try to open something and it doesn't work. I try to open something. Like that's my cue that I need to like get up and change the routine a little bit. Like I'm stuck. I can't, it's not
Mhm.
rolling.
And do you work on a daily basis, an almost daily basis?
Daily.
Yeah.
And because it's even I count journaling as writing and I journal a lot too because that's still output. Like it's again momentum. It's you're keeping the flow is there and it's something that the I like writing a lot. I like being able to feel like I can track my growth very tangibly. When I look back on something I wrote like 6 months ago, it feels very different. And that's a really good feeling for me. That's a very motivating factor. So it's fun to feel like that is something I can sustain, but I can't sustain that unless I really sustain it. Like I do have to pick something and it's not like I'm writing 1,000 words every day. I'm some days I'm writing two sentences and that's it, but they're two
Hmm.
sentences that have come out of me for some reason and that's it. Like that's the rule, is that it can't just be some piddly I put words on a page and I'm done. Like that to me is really, I can, when I read back on something when I was just sort of like slogging through it, just getting it done, I always cut it. I always cut that stuff. It like that's always the stuff that ends up on the floor.
Yeah, yeah. What part of writing do you struggle with the most?
I am still quite precious with a lot of it, where it's, because it is such a deep-seated personal thing that I've had for so long. Like I've been writing stories since I was a very, very young child. Um, I am still, there's a piece of me that wants to keep it close and be like, this is mine. Like, you're not allowed to read this. And then if somebody gives me the criticism that I have paid them to give me, there's a part of me that's like, why are you saying mean things about my work?
How dare you? How dare
Yeah,
you do your
but it's
job?
like, yeah, and it's you, I have to put it away, but it still comes out. Like, ideally, um, oh, sorry, hold on. Are you getting my feed for my audio okay? I
Yeah,
just got a
it's great.
notification on my screen. Okay, great. Um, that I think I have, yeah, meeting is being recorded. We're good. Sorry, I just got a pop up. Um, but yes, I am still working on getting good at sort of putting that goblin back in the box. And that's the hardest part because it's very tempting to let it out because it's fun to feel sorry for myself. I really like wallowing. So it's, it works like for the fiction, it's really good because I can just kind of twist it up and shunt all of it in there. So it's a necessary characteristic for that. I just have to direct it in the right place, and directing it at myself is not the right place to do it.
I really
Um,
like that you're calling it a necessary characteristic, though. I feel like it is necessary for all writers, and I actually have time frames built around wallowing. Do you have those? Like, for when I was first trying to get an
that is
agent, I would give
very,
myself 24 hours, and I would
mhm,
and I would say, I'm wallowing. And I would get in bed, pull the covers up,
mhm.
get the Cadbury cream eggs, watch I think
Yeah,
it's like,
indulge,
yeah,
have a
planned
cry.
wallowing is really
Yeah.
useful.
I think planning is, I wish I was the kind of person who could plan it. It is just, it just comes out. I can't plan the passions as much as I wish I could. There is no calendar that can hold whatever is going on with this. So I just grab it as it comes in terms of inspiration with the drive of it, coming from that need to defend myself almost
Hmm.
with that goblin coming out of the box. I feel like it's largely a sense of feeling like I have to prove myself, particularly as a newbie. Like two books in is still very, very fresh ground.
Hmm.
um and there is a part of, again, that same small part of me that just wants to waltz in the room and automatically be the best. And it's again, like, I feel like that is a necessary characteristic to make yourself belong in the kind of spaces that
Hmm.
need more of us in them. But like, there's a time and a place. And the time and a place is not when I'm receiving an edit letter from my editor, who I love very much. Like, that's not the room that it needs to be
I
in.
think I've said this before, but I've never ever sent off a final manuscript to an editor without the tiny hope that, like, this will be the time that she writes back and says, you know what, nailed it. Like, you actually,
Mhm.
like, it's always, and I'm always disappointed when the editing letter comes back. Always, no
Yeah.
matter what, even though it's my favorite thing to do, and I love revision beyond. Let me ask you. So you did share that you let your agency a very early draft. How the heck did you do that? I don't think I could. I'm
Really?
like, no,
Oh,
my agent doesn't
my
get to like 1.5. I like do a 0 and a 1, and she might see 1.5. Maybe.
I think my agent is very kind. He's a smart guy. He's incredibly business savvy. He's very creative. He's very,
Who's your
very
agent?
kind. Chris Bucci at
Oh,
Avitas.
okay. I don't know.
He's amazing.
Okay.
And I trust him a lot. I trust him and I trust my editor very deeply. So I feel totally comfortable showing them some very early work. Um, and I often don't really know how to ask for what I want from critique yet. That's something that I'm still working on. So like, I have sent him early things before where he's like, I read it. Like, what do you want? What should I be looking for? And
That's a
I
good
now I'm
question.
sort of, yeah, I'm getting better at when I send something, even if it's just a little snip of a chapter where I'm like, I really like this. Like I am pleased with how I did A, B, and C, and I want
Mhm.
to show this to somebody. I feel comfortable sending that kind of stuff to him. I send him, if I have a short or something that I'm looking to submit to a magazine or send out somewhere, send it to him first, see what he thinks, and see if he knows of any place that might be receptive to it. Because again, like he's a business
Mhm.
contact for me. I have a business relationship with him, and it behooves me to remember that. Like he's not my enemy by any means. We are
Right.
very much on each other's team. So I write better work when I get feedback from people that I trust, and he's somebody that I trust. So it's absolutely to my benefit to be open with that kind of stuff because like I wouldn't have signed a contract with him in the first place if I didn't feel comfortable like bearing all. And he
Right.
you know
Right.
he has seen very, very brittle early work of mine that has no business being in the public sphere at all. Like it's messy work that isn't saying anything at all, but he can see to the core of it, and it's a very
Yeah.
valuable eye to me. I like his taste a lot. He's got great taste.
I like you calling that early draft brittle too. I think that's a really good
It's
word
just it
for
snaps under like the
the
most basic pressure.
you breathe on it, yeah, and it snaps.
Mhm.
So, in terms of writing, what are you really good at?
Oh, I like that you let people brag about themselves. I
I
wish I was better at
encourage
this.
it.
I think I'm good at dialogue. I'm certainly better at dialogue than I ever have been. My editor told me when she first picked up this book, we had our first phone call about it, and she said, I want you to focus on dialogue a lot. I think it's something that she very clearly was steering me towards with Shoot the Moon, saying, this could be, let's dive into the scene a little bit more. Take us there, like put us right in it with them. Don't just tell us what they were talking about, show us the conversation. And I didn't really know how to write conflict on the page for a long time. And I feel like I've gotten much better at that. And in Congress together, the two of those are a lot of fun for me. My favorite scene in Margaret Wolf, it's a spoiler, so I can't say what's happening, but it is an argument between two characters in a kitchen, and it's my favorite scene in the whole book. Like that was one that I had to take apart a lot and like rebuild from the ground
Um,
up. But I recognized that that one needed a lot of work, and I wasn't willing to nuts and bolts it. So I started from zero. I saved it and put it somewhere else, and then I just pulled up the blank, and started from the top. And that ended up being like that was one of those moments where I was sort of just like, okay, we've done this before. Like I'm sort of just gonna go. Like let's see where this takes us. And it ended up knocking my socks off. It's I am one of the writers who is very up my own pipe about my emotions on the page, and I cry a lot when I'm working on emotional scenes. And that was one where I finished and it was just blah, all over my desk. It was very satisfying.
I feel
That
like
was a
that's
good
one of the best feelings one can have as a writer. And then when one is telling one's partner later about how it went, and
yeah.
then you start crying again because you
Again,
really
again, again. Yeah. My my
the
my
best.
husband has very good feedback on everything. And um at one point he's very like casual about all of it too, because it's very objective for him. He looks at everything kind of very much like a puzzle. And one afternoon he sort of just recommended offhanded. He was like, "Oh, I think you should da da da." And I was like, "No, like I couldn't do that." And like not at all. Like, how dare you suggest that? And then I sat with it, and then like 2 hours later, I was like, "Damn it! Like I have to do it. You were right. I hate that." But it's those moments where it very recently it was the same thing. I rewrote kind of a crux point of one character's arc that wasn't satisfying me, and I finally locked it in. It was just like, oh, it's nice when things work.
I love that. What is the kindest thing you've ever done for yourself as a writer?
Ooh, take myself seriously. I for a very, very long time I was like, it's just a hobby. I do it for myself. I don't, I don't want to publish. I don't know. Oh, I wanted to write books when I was a kid. And then, I became an adult and I got a job and life happens and things just keep coming at you and you need to do something for yourself. So it was very much like, what do I want this to be? I think I'm good enough to dot dot dot. Well, let's try it. And I just kept at it. I kept going, and trusted myself at the end of the day. And I think that's the thing that I'm most proud of, is like that is very clearly, it's something that I've done for myself, by myself, with myself.
Hmm.
And, it's a very affirming thing to say, this is something that is of me entirely. I've taken classes, I have teachers, I have mentors who have been instrumental in building the person who I am. But at the end of the day, I'm the only one responsible for this, and that's very, very empowering. It's a really wonderful feeling to know that I can exact so much will over something to make it a tangible book. Like
Hmm.
that's very cool. It's really
The,
cool.
when you first hold that first ARC in your hands and you
Oh
realize
my God.
all those
Yeah.
words are there because you put them
Yeah.
there. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a
Very, very cool feeling. Sniff it first. It's
yeah.
like going back to Borders, RIP. Like that was, I wish there was a fragrance.
I know. Ah, I love that. Okay, and kind of along those lines, can you tell us about a specific moment that you knew you had ink in your veins?
Yes, I was in second grade, and oh my God, it was fairy tale unit in like reading class or something. I was 8 or 9 years old. My mom has it saved somewhere. I know she does. But it was like, write a reflection about the end of Cinderella. And I was like, oh, I don't like how it ended, so I just rewrote the end of it, where like Cinderella goes home with the prince and she sneezes and he says, "How dare you sneeze in my castle?" And she was like, "Oh, I'm not allowed to sneeze in your castle. Okay, bye." She just leaves.
You wrote
And
Cinderella fanfic.
that was my, yes,
Feminist Cinderella
and I have
fanfic.
been writing, yeah, exactly. It's been there for a long time,
That's
and that is,
incredible.
yeah, that child is very active still in every part of my life.
That is incredible. When I first started asking this question on the show, I really thought that people would say, like, when I first, finished my first novel or whatever. And I would say two-thirds of people come with a childhood memory. And it just like
Oh
it
yeah.
just makes me giddy every single time. And that is the most delicious thing ever. Thank you for
Yeah,
sharing that. That is
you're
so,
very
so good.
welcome. Yeah, Cinderella
Uh,
fan fiction.
feminist. All right. Will you tell us about the best book that you've read recently and why did you love it?
Oh my gosh, I read an arc for a book that is coming out. Can I date the podcast? Can I like
Yeah,
put
yeah,
us
yeah,
in
totally.
space and
Thank you.
time?
Hmm.
This spring, 2025, I think
Hmm.
June 2025, there is a book called Florenzer by Phil Melanson, and it is a historical fiction set in the Renaissance in Italy during the Medici
Hmm.
collapse, or rather not quite the collapse, but sort of like the stumble, the assassination, half successful attempt success, the Pazzi conspiracy. And
Ooh.
it is, Leonardo da Vinci is a character who just like right to my heart the whole time. I was like, Leo, it's so good. Oh my God. That's a book that I was crying as I was reading that one. I was so impressed. It's his debut. I can't wait to
That
see
sounds
what else he has
wonderful.
coming. Yeah, yeah. It's going to be a good one. I'm going to be very loud about it when it comes out. But it's like, when I went in college, I studied medieval music, and that just like, it hit every check
Mm.
for me. I was like, ding, 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 ding. I know all of the art that they're talking about. This is the most magical book. It was written just for me. It was very
Oh,
satisfying. Yeah, it
oh,
was really cool.
thank you. Thank you very much. As an
Yeah.
Italophile, I will be absolutely
Oh,
checking that out.
yes, that's a good one.
And will you, while we're on this topic, will you please tell us a little bit about the unbecoming of Margaret Wolf?
The Unbecoming of Margaret Wolf. I have a note somewhere in my scrapbook document that says it's about actors and the misery of desire. So
Ooh,
it's
it
it's
is
two
too.
people. It's two people who have attached themselves to each other in a very unkind time, who have found solace in one another. They're best friends. They're soulmates. And they get pitted against some very, very ugly stakes in the desert during a summer stock theater festival in the 1950s. It's a revisitation of Macbeth, I didn't expect it to be so timely. It's unfortunate that it
Mm,
feels very prescient, but it is.
hmm
And I'm proud to have written it. I'm proud to be releasing it right now, certainly. But it says a lot of things that I've struggled to find words for lately. And anger is a very hard emotion for me to put to words. It's so visceral, it's so primal. But it guides so much of the way that people interact with each other today. And I think that it was really important for me to put it in the perspective of a very, very, very feminine body in a time that femininity was very rigidly defined. And kind of just light the match and see what happens. It's about a powder keg, or honestly, it's what happens when it's just straw after straw after straw on the back. Um, and I hope that people find a lot of peace in it, but I also hope that people find a lot of power in it because I hope that it helps people learn how to talk about this kind of stuff.
I think you did it exactly perfectly. And it
Oh, thank you.
just shows that you are using that fluency in fiction to say
Thanks.
exactly what you need to do. You're using your language that way.
I
So
really appreciate that. Thank
thank
you.
you.
That means a lot to hear.
Thank you for it. Where can people find you out there online?
They can find me on Instagram. I'm sort of playing the cello on the Titanic, I think, and Threads. Those are the only two platforms that I'm on. I am compiling a newsletter through my website. My website is the place that I control, I own. It's my haven. It's inarsen.com, and that has links to everything. And currently, I'm on Substack. I'll be disseminating information on a new newsletter that's just very simple, straight to the inbox, not a social media platform. I'm very sick of the noise. So, yeah,
Perfect. Thank you so very much for being here. It has been just a super treat to talk to you.
thank you for having me, Rachel. This has been a
You're
joy.
welcome.